Hello, programmers. Here's a quick tutorial on parameter passing using value, reference, and pointers. So let's get right into it. So say I want to create a program that is similar to your homework, and I want to collect data of several people. So let's come up with some variables. I've got a char name. Let's go with age and say a float of pay. So here are my variables, and I want to be able to get the user input in one function. So common practice is we use the name load, and we're just going to pass these variables in. Okay. So looking at this, I'm passing in one char, one int, and one float. Special rules. Chars and strings are always going to be passed using pointers. Ints and floats, you can use either. You can use either value, reference, or pointers. But key thing for me to point out is these ints and floats, depending on if I need them back and depending on the type of parameter passing, they might require something before we pass them in. So if I use a pointer, then I will need to put this here in the main's call. So this is a function call, and you'll notice right away, chars and strings, they don't need this ampersand. So it's just how C was created. So let's go ahead and create the function itself. It's going to be a void load. And the first thing we need to match these in order. First thing is going to be a char. And we need the star to designate that it is a pointer. And by the way, we don't have to match the name of it. These are local variables within this function load. So to demonstrate that, I'll just call this my name. And since I'm bringing in age as a pointer, this means I want to change the value of age. I'm going to also put a star designating it as a pointer. I'll call it my age just to show that it doesn't need to match. And finally, same thing for the pay. This time I'll call it pay just to demonstrate that you can match it if you wanted to. I'll create this real quick. Enter a name. And I will use gets so I can have spaces in the names. Next, I will do enter an age. Couple lines there. My age. Printf. Enter your pay. Printf. Okay, %f, and finally pay. Now you may notice that I'm missing a few things here. When we use scanf, obviously I do need the ampersand. All right, let's designate that I am storing whatever is typed into this variable. So I'll go ahead and do that. But since we are bringing in the star, so this is a pointer, so I'm going to have to put the pointer there. Okay. And there we have it. Again, my name is special. It doesn't need the star over here in order for this to work. So speaking of work, we got to test to make sure that it does work. So what I like to do is create a test function or a print function here. So let's just go ahead and do a test print function. Void print. I'll pass in the same thing. I'll pass in again star name. int age and float pay. I'll simply do printf my data. Let's give it a couple placeholders. %s for the name, %d for the age, and %.2f for the pay. There you go. So let's give it a quick test to make sure that this function works. So it's always a good idea to test each function before continuing to the next one, so you don't lose track of your data, or you don't build too big a program before making sure that it works from the beginning. So let's pass in name, age, and pay. Now here, this is an example of what's called value passing. We're simply passing in by value, these guys at least. This one, obviously, we're passing in as a pointer because it's special. It's a string or a char. But as for these, we're strictly just passing them in by value. We don't need them back, so we're just going to spit the values here for printing so we can see it. So let's go ahead and run that. And I will use my name, whatever age I can put here. Sure, I'll put 23. And a pay, I'll say 12. So here we are, my data, name, age, pay, name, age, pay. So it works. Great. So this demonstrates the use of strictly pointers, right? So you have to pay attention to the ampersands and the stars. Now let's try using by reference. So I'm going to create another load function, this time using reference. So let's go ahead and I will actually call it load ref. And this one, similarly, we don't have a choice in the matter when it comes to strings and chars. They're always going to be pointers. So I'll just call this name. However, with the ints, instead of using the star, we're going to use the reference designator for the age, and same thing for the pay. I'm just going to copy this and change these to name and change this to age. Okay, now all I got to do, put the reference designator there. And that is it. So this function here, age and pay passed by reference. Here, name, age, pay passed by. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this function out to make sure it works as well. So here, after I load and print the first one, I'm going to load and print the second one. I will call it load ref and name, age, pay. Now keep in mind that when we're using pass by reference, in the main, I don't have to change anything here. I didn't have to add an ampersand or a star or anything, nothing in here. And I will do one more print, this time for the second one, name, age, pay. So let's go ahead and test this out. Okay. Okay, so this is the first one. This one I'm using pointers. And I'll say whatever. Oh. Oops, I forgot to put a new line there at enter a name, but that's okay. Oh, I tell you what I forgot. Here's a rookie mistake that I did myself. So I'm going to have to use what's called a flush. I need to flush the standard input. You can either use this or a get char user preference. They both do the same thing. In fact, I'll use a get char up here, and I'll use a flush standard input over there. So let's try it again. This is what happens when you don't flush the stream out. You see enter a name and then enter an age right away without stopping. So let me put a new line there. Yeah, I'll put a new line everywhere. Easier to read. Okay, let's test it out. So this one is by pointers. There we go. So my pointers data was this one. Oh, right here, my data pointers 12, 23. Yep, that's my name pointers. So now my second name, I'll call it reference. The age, sure, I'll give it 23 and 34. And there you go. It just printed reference, age, and pay. So you're going to be asking like, whoa, okay, so what's the difference? Why would I choose to use pointers over reference or reference over pointers when the result is pretty similar? In fact, it is exactly the same. Well, that, at this stage in your programming career, it's really a matter of preference. Pointers can be reassigned while references cannot. And you'll get more into that later. Once you get to data structures, you're going to be reassigning all kinds of pointers to build trees, to build linked lists and stuff like that. So for now, just keep in mind that they do exactly the same thing when you want to change a value. So the beauty of this is we just have to create one variable, well, call the variables one time, and then we can mutate them as many times as we want. So name at first over here, I named it pointer. So now name is pointer. And then when I load it into my reference and I name it again to reference, now name is reference. And similar for the age and the pay as well. But you can see the difference is that with pointers, here, I'll put a note here, age and pay using pointers. In fact, they're all using pointers. I'll say all using pointers. Name is string. So it's a special case where you don't have to put the ampersand. Similarly here, these are, name is using pointer. Age and pay using reference passing. Okay, so that seems like pretty good practice for those of you who already know or maybe just need a refresher on it. And now you're asking, oh, you know what? What about value passing? Well, here it is. Well, value passing, I think we mentioned before, age and pay in our print functions, we're just passing in the values. We don't need them back, so we're just going to spit it out. And okay, next you're going to be like, wait, what if the professor wants me to use a non-void function? What happens then? Well, here we go. We can easily create this. So let's come up with a non-void function, and it's going to return a float. And I'll just call it calc something. And I don't know what I want to pass in just yet, but I know I need to return something. So keep in mind that when you see this, it's just going to return a data type of float. And I like to think of it as a value itself. this whole thing is going to become a number. And I can actually do that. I can say float something. And I'm going to assign something equals to calc something. So let's go ahead and just let's pass in age and pay. And let's see, I could come up with a control statement. So say if age is greater than, say, 20, I want to go ahead and change pay into return pay times 10. Else, just return pay, say, times 2. Okay. So here, I can see I'm passing in age. Do I need it back? I don't. Pay. So this is interesting. Do I need pay back for this one? Well, the answer is no. I really don't need it back. You may say, wait, I'm changing pay here. Well, no, not really. We're actually just using pay to do a calculation. And then we're going to store it. That's what the return is for. We're going to store this calculation into a variable of type float right here. So I'm just going to do this. I'll pass in age. I'll pass in pay. Now, whatever the calculation happens here, say it's some number is going to be stored into the variable called something. Now I can just conventionally just do a %.2f and call upon something. So let's test that out. And for this particular one, sure, I'll go all the way through the program. I'll just call this something. Do a couple new lines there again. Okay. Let's go ahead and run that. So this one, I don't care. I know these work. And I know the second one works too. And there's something. So what did I put? I put in the last one, age was 23, pay was 34. Age is greater than 20, so 34 times 10 gives me 340. Great. And next thing maybe you're going to ask, well, what if I don't really like the look of it. This is 3 lines. How can I shorten it? How can I just go one shot to the print? Fine, we can do that too. So alternatively, we can just do this. I'll just do %.2f. Let's go with something alternative, %.2f. And I just want to go straight into calling the function here. And this is something we can do, age, pay. Great. So let's give it a shot. Okay. This is good. And this is good too. So we have something here at 46 and something alternative. It's also 46. So these will do the same thing. Here, let me put a couple new lines. So that pretty much covers everything we need to talk about when dealing with pointers, parameter passing, using reference, and value. Now, in your assignments, you might say, well, wait. What if I want to print, this ages or this name or this pay, but then when I do a calculation, it's referring to the most recent one. How can I just print it all one shot? Because right now I have to load and then print. I have to load and print. So the order matters in this case. So this is completely procedural and in sequence. So I could theoretically just do this. Let's see. In fact, I have to do this for now. I am constrained by this. I have to do it all in order. Otherwise, it's always only going to give me the most recent age and pay, which is here. So I'm going to have to put calc something in here so that the age and pay, the age and pay will be this age and pay. And then for this one, here, let me delete this since I already declared it up top. For this one, this calc something age and pay will refer to this age and pay. So you're going to ask me, wait, what if I wanted to input all my data first and then print out everything one shot at the very end? And to that, I'll say, well, we can't do that just yet here. For that, we're going to have to use a struct or a class. And that you will learn in the coming weeks. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. And feel free to email me or look for me on Discord if you have any other questions or any concerns or complaints. Let me know. Good luck to you all, and I'll see you all in the next one.